Hey everybody. Well, I got this knockoff Victor intake here, and it surprises me because it's not that bad. I've had the actual Victor Jr. look a lot worse than this thing. So I did start on this before, and you can see where I left myself notes all around on this because it's been months since I was last on it. But here you go, guys. Right in the plenum is the main issue. So just like any Ford, you always want to try to get your back runners, your end runners, the advantage, because the center runners have tendency to hog all the air. But one thing good about this knockoff intake compared to some of the name brands is that they made this plenum come out, and this is back, cut back in the middle here, your separator for the runners. It gives us an advantage not to steal the air like a lot of them come right off the plenum and straight to the port. So that's a good thing. But one of the easiest things I've seen on this is there's not a whole lot of meat to cut back on. Usually right here, they go way down and they have a big lip here. This has a small lip, so this casting is a lot better here. And all I have to really do is straighten the runners out. You put like a wall type effect on here to try to divide your air. And I want to keep the nice beveled edge here. So you round this runner off, like right here, to keep the air nice here, where it has tendency to roll over instead of favoring in this way. So that being shaped like this will give that the advantage to keep moving. So there's not a lot to do to this, guys. As far as going crazy on it, it doesn't need it. I did one just like this for one of our buddies, and unfortunately he passed away. But I ran into him down the track, and that's the first thing he did is come up and say how much that intake helped that car out. He said the other intake he had on there, it was lazy. He said in the throttle response that intake had, he said it was night and day. He loved that intake. He acted like a little kid in the candy store. I couldn't believe how much he bragged it up to me. But I think that car went like 1060s with a Windsor in it, I believe. And it was a Maverick. So it wasn't the lightest car in the world, but it sure wasn't the heaviest. I mean, but to think that that intake made that much power to make that car run where it was at. And he had decent heads on it, but there wasn't a lot done to them either. So my point is this. If you had too big of an intake, then it would lose bottom end. And that's why I'm going with this. You don't really want to port these too much. You want to just try to get the runner straight as possible without really changing the shape of them as much as you have to. No more than you have to do that. Like I will round all the top off here. And you guys know I try to get the air to come back as much as I can off the plenum, as quick as I can get it into these end runners. That's one thing I do. And I will try to just save as much as I can on the sides here where these other runners, like I said, have tendency to take the air. And what I will do, I will round this way out in the corners right here, trying to sweep this plenum back and make a nice run for the air to easily go into these back runners. That's what I've always seen be the best thing, guys, on these intakes. You worry about the back runners, And you don't have to go crazy like porting them. And as far as port matching, well, people have their theories on that, but I'm going to tell you something. As close as I'll get to a port match is this. If I put a gasket up to a cylinder head, I'll go to the far end of that gasket line on the head. The way I'll match the intake to that cylinder head, it'll be on the inside of the gasket. I wish I had a gasket here, I'd show you what I mean by that, but my point is this. The intake is better off left a little smaller. Guys don't want to believe that. You hear all this port matching garbage all the time, and that's what I call it, because unless you have something 11,000 RPMs or 10,000, 9,000, dead to the wood, that's where you're going to maybe see a difference in that. And when you see the difference in that, guys, it's going to be probably 5 horsepower on a motor that's calling for the most airflow, airspeed that it can get at a high RPM. A motor on the street, 6,000 RPM, 6,500, you're lucky to see a horsepower difference. That's my opinion. That's what I've always thought about, how much guys get too wrapped up in that, or caught up, whatever you want to say. But I've been in many discussions over that. And if anybody really wants to do that, you're not hurting anything, except for maybe, if you want to get technical about it, I believe it helps break the fuel up a little bit more when you leave that intake on the smaller side, when it has a little skip and a jump entering the head. That might sound silly to some guys. That's what I believe in. And I've never seen where it hurt to do this. That's why when I do things, it's hard for me to explain sometimes, but I wouldn't put it out there if I didn't know it worked in the performance world, guys. So, sorry I'm not more technical with stuff, fellas, but I'm just a backyard guy in a little garage. But one thing I can say is that at least the cars we have and that I've worked on and done things for all run pretty well. That Maverick I was just telling you about, it wasn't the prettiest looking car, but people were impressed with it when they seen him run it down the track. They were asking him questions all the time. Every time I was down there, I seen that guy had people around asking him questions about that car. And it's just one of them deals. Like I said, you can overdo stuff. An intake is one of the most crucial things you can overdo, and it only takes a few mistakes to make them too big. So you'd never know that with me working on this Parker intake, but don't go by that, guys, because that's going to be a whole different ball wax. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I'm telling you guys what I'm telling you right now. This is an average street engine, and like I said, most engines aren't going to be up around 9,000 RPMs. And most guys that use an intake like this here, they're not even turning their engines 8,000 RPMs, and that's what these intakes are made for. They're made to go to 8,500. Sometimes you're at a disadvantage even putting one of these type intakes on a single plane. But the plenum side has a lot to do with it. So that's one thing that I try to keep in mind when I'm doing an intake, is what carburetor is going to be on it. Because that plenum size actually matters with that, guys. So, it's just one of them deals. You can get technical with stuff, or just do things the old-fashioned way like I do. Just whatever you see, you try to improve it, and you don't want to go too much. A little less is better than going too much. And I will say that. Because a little less, you can always improve it if it needs it. A little too much, then you're out with epoxies and getting somebody to put weld back in it. And that's when it runs you into more time. And like I said, most of the time on something like this here, a good cleanup is all you need. I'll make it simple there, guys. I get rambling too much with stuff, but a good cleanup, and that's usually it. So anything more, like I said, you're not going to make a bunch more horsepower by going crazy with a single plane. You keep the runner straight as you can, and as less as restricted as you can on the weaker runners. And that's how I always do it, fellas. But anyway, I'm going to jump back on this. And I did want to show you guys that, like just how to round your corners off. And when you do, you want to favor back towards your weaker corners. Don't round it off where it's going to help share the air into this runner, your center runners. Try to keep your taper from the corner and cut back this way. You can take a little bit more out of the corners right here to actually give this wall more of an advantage right there, guys. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm actually going to cut this meat up to here. I'm going to bring this up right on up into the corner right here. So I'm taking all this out right here, and then I'll even it out in the plenum right there. So that's how I do it, guys. So I hope this is helpful to somebody. Like I said, I'm not the most technical guy, but sometimes being technical will actually hurt you. So that's what I found over the years. So anyway, fellas, have a good night, and thank you for checking me out and seeing what I'm up to. I appreciate it, fellas. Hey guys, anybody just watch my other segments? Yeah, it works, fellas. I just put brushes in that drill. You guys probably seen that. Okay, have a good night. Take care.